I'm Colin Greiner. Today we're going to be talking about poetry with Gabriel Ratcliffe, a predominant figure in poetry here at Hanover and the leader of rhythm and poetry. What do you think it means to be a poet?
To me, I think to be a poet is to be, in a way, a painter with your lips, and to create these images using metaphors and personification in order to bring about a new understanding of a subject or a new way to look at it, to bring words to life.
As a poet, do you feel obligated to fill any roles within your community?
Very much lately, I have thought about how I can conduct that same movement in Hanover College, because I feel like it's kind of ironic how it's a liberal arts school and how some of the arts are slipping away or it's not as prominent. And then it also doesn't help with the culture surrounding Hanover. And so what I would like to do, or what I would like to have as a legacy so to continue onward, is to create this community where poetry is appreciated and practiced, and how those things is all part of liberal arts, and just to bring about a strong community, a way of creating a stronger community.
How do you make poetry your own?
For me, it really started with myself, and that's how a lot of my poems start out. I started with myself in order to create that connection. And sometimes I feel like, or how like many people feel like, we feel like that we are fighting our own battles alone and we don't know what the person next to you is going through. But then as I am continuously sharing my poetry and referring to my own stories, then come to realize that there are people out there that it speaks to them. And I don't know and there are also times where I send out this message, or I post a poem on Instagram, or write, or at an event at Hanover, and sometimes I don't know if that poem really spoke to them. But then, I mean, and it just goes to show that you never really know what kind of impact you may have on people, whether it's just your words or your actions. How you made them feel is something that they would never forget.
What is one of your favorite things about writing poetry?
I think one thing about poetry my favorite thing is that there's the writing process, of course, and then there's the pulling from inspiration of things happening around us. But it's more, what I like about it is that, I think one of the things I like most about it is that it's a way of storytelling. And I'm not just a poet, but I'm also like to expand to storytelling and writing, novel writing, fiction writing, and just thinking about how, and then challenging myself and experimenting, kind of like a scientist, but with words, and how I can take this subject and then put it into different words, and how can I describe that? How can I paint a picture about how important that I think this is, or how important it is to me?
What is the Rhythm and Poetry Club here at Hanover, and what role do you fill within it?
That's kind of like my baby, because I spent my time ever since second semester of my freshman year. I had revived it because it had dissipated the year before, and the original founders had left, and then I was kind of left with me and one other person to kind of pick up the pieces. It has been rather difficult for me, because just a simple feeling that at times I don't receive enough student support, and that is constantly frustrating. And fortunately, I'm glad things are better now that we have an executive board and full of people that have a passion in poetry and want to see it grow. And that's what I want for Rhythm and Poetry, to be one of those clubs where we can expand and create this safe space where people can share their poetry or learn about poetry or understand the true depths of what poetry is. Because I hear a lot of people give the excuse about how they're bad at poetry and they can't try, and it's like, look, we're not going to grade you, we're not going to judge you. This is just for fun and to create a close-knit community.
What accomplishments have you made as a poet, and what do you feel most proud of?
I received an honorable mention for 2 of my works for the 2017 Scholastic Arts and Writing Awards. And then from there, I have also done spoken word at an event for Black History Month. In my freshman year of coming here, I had submitted a couple of, not a couple, but quite a few poems that have been accepted by the Hanover's literary magazine known as Kennings. And I am, from time to time, involved in that. And then, along with different performances at events and here at Hanover, and the building of the Rhythm and Poetry and getting that where I want it to be and more, I've also am very proud of being the 2021 winner of the Albra Jade Highland Creative Writing Award.
What kind of legacy do you hope to leave here at Hanover?
Knowing how I have made myself out, I basically introduced myself as a poet from the beginning, August experience of freshman year, and I have continued with that. And I think the biggest portion of my legacy will reside in rhythm and poetry, and my hopes that the mission that I am setting out, that I want it to have a safe place where people can share poetry, learn more about it, and create a close-knit community that celebrates liberal arts, then that is a legacy that I would be satisfied.
How do you see poetry being a part of your life after college?
I would like to go on and be an author. I am working on getting some of my works published just every now and then, and also while trying to balance that with school and all. And poetry, also I've been expanding that with my storytelling and writing books. And another thing as far as poetry, not only to have or to publish works, but also to create a network of poets where I can connect with people who are more like-minded and who share that kind of passion. And I have just imagine myself being on a stage during an open mic or a poetry slam competition where I could compete against other people like me, and to be a part of this poetic revolution that has already started.
Well, it was great talking to you, Gabe. Thank you for the interview. Next, we'll be looking at a dramatic reading of one of Gabe's recent poems, Me and Space.
Space. Space. More space. To measure the weight of space in speech, I study politicians, actors, activists, and poets. Painters who part their lips to contrast light from shadow to deepen the dimensions of etymological matter. And for that, poets are the lesser-known goats of today. I've heard some famous artists adapt poetry into rap and spit bars at the rate of submachine guns and drop hot beats behind them, but I question the matter in their lyrics. I wonder if matter, substance, and quality are the holy trinity in the matter of synthesizing strands of messages genetically modified with meaning instead of strands encoded with cancerous consequences if the mind inherits them as the way, the truth, and the life. As for me, I have to slow down. At age 16, I was diagnosed with this learning condition, and because it's unseen and unnamed, I'd often forget the matter exists. But the matter repeatedly slaps me across the face to remind me that it's a condition where space vigorously tests my ability to think on my feet and process data quickly when crucial in conversation, instruction, or examination. It's a condition in which I wrestle with space and where space judo throws me into a void where sentences are too frail to keep me from drifting too far. And I'm lost in space, who expands into a silent, bone-chilling ocean pressing against my chest. I'm defeated if I permit this space demon to drown me. The longer silence falls between me and the world, the louder space whispers, watch him leave and take away nothing. Your say doesn't matter. You have no say in the matter. You don't matter. I pause. I pause because I'm afraid I'd saturate the meat of my messages with fatty space holders like or like, as in the like who breaks the flow of thought when it wasn't invited to create similes or express pleasure, but I know they're natural. Sometimes I hate space. Space is so petty it switches off the gravity so that I stray from the grounds of logic, which is why I practice maintaining my traction while pulling my cosmic thoughts back into orbit after they flew off course. Other times, I embrace space. I need space. Without space to relax and release, how will I know my matter matters? How else could merged words articulate their own melodies without colliding? How else could I assess the matter at hand when I can't simply address it with a bullet to the head and say, bang, the matter's dead now? We, space and I, spend every second of the day debating when it's appropriate to accommodate streams of consciousness with gaps to control my word flow. Yes, no, yay, nay, yeah, nah. Motion carried. Then we meet again. Our negotiations inherited space's gene of infinity, but every now and then we establish a contract. Space buys me time until I find solid ground to touch down and unearth the words I need. And in turn, I pay space what I owe in matter that matters. So, as I break space sitting between you and I, my say matters, but does it make sense?
Hanover has a great group of young and upcoming poets, and we're with one of them today. She is a part of the very well-known group, Rhythm and Poetry. Thank you for coming, Anne-Marie.
Thanks for having me.
What made you get into poetry?
I'd say from a really young age, I've always been very introverted, so I tended to write to express myself. And my dad he writes a lot too, so I kind of got into that from him. I think the first time I wrote a poem was after I was like going through my parents' things, and then I found a poem he wrote as I was being delivered, because he was running late, he was on the highway, and he was just like, yeah, write this. And then that was kind of like, oh, let me write something. So.
What is your major and your graduation year?
I'm an economics major and anthropology minor, and I graduate this year, 2021.
So why did you decide to become an economics major?
So I'm an international student. I'm from Zambia. And so economics has just always been a topic of interest just because we're a developing country. and our economy is not as strong. So I just came here knowing that I wanted to study economics.
What do you feel are your strengths and weaknesses?
That's a good question. I think one of my strengths is empathy, I'd say. I have an ability to relate with other people very easily. And one of my weaknesses is I don't always know when to ask for help. So sometimes, especially working in a team, you end up taking a lot of the burden and not really know when to set your boundaries.
What made you decide to come to Hanover?
So I was applying to just a bunch of schools all over the US, and Hanover offered me the most money. And so it came down to dollars and cents. Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
With a master's degree, hopefully building a career in international development or economic development work. Yeah.
Thank you, Anne-Marie, for coming today and answering these questions for us. Stay tuned for the visualization of her poem, The Bird Feeder.
Half broken and altogether rather unreliable rests a clear plastic bird feeder. Long since usable, it sits at the base of my favorite tree in our yard, left by my mother who, after cursing more than once about the destruction the dogs bring, then turned her back on it forever. The red ants, in their unrelenting pursuit to conquer anything brazen and hollow enough to make a home, empty juice boxes, forgotten toys, old dog bowls, have conquered the feeder. Day by day, centimeter by centimeter, finding refuge in its long cylindrical frame and how its broken end makes for the perfect entrance into the dirt castle that the busy ants have erected from the ground. Resting lazily on the top inside of the cylinder is a bluehead, perhaps munching on the ants as they do their bidding, perhaps hiding from the birds, oblivious to the loss in the treetop, or just happy to have found shade and solace in the bird feeder left by mother quite some time ago. Somewhere in the world, race wars rage. Somewhere people squeeze into elevators and hold their breath and drink coffee just to sleep restlessly, if they even sleep at all. And some days I think, we are the bird feeder. And some days I swear we are the dogs. And some days we're the bluehead, and some days we're the ants, but most days we're just my dear mother, abandoning everything because we're too human to find the value in broken things.
So first off, Kate, I just wanted to thank you for taking time out of your afternoon and joining us today. When did you become interested in poetry/writing, and why?
Well, I mean, I've always kind of been a writer. It's kind of like self-therapy for me. I journal and I kind of write random notes to myself, things that just pique my interest. But I mean, in kind of like the professional sense, I think I got interested in writing with my honors English class my sophomore year of high school, and it introduced me to like the love of the creativity.
Did you ever think you were going to make it this far today from back when you started?
I don't think I would have imagined myself being an English major, so that's something. I kind of always felt that my writing was very personal and I didn't want to share it. And as I took more classes throughout high school, like I took a lot of AP, ACP classes that forced me to talk about myself in my writing. And then just my freshman year here, it really kind of made me realize that the path that I was taking for my career choice wasn't the one that I wanted to do, and that I should do something that I loved rather than what I thought was good for me.
How many hours a week would you say you spend time writing or working on poetry?
I kind of only write whenever I'm like stressed about something or something on my mind that I need to get out, yeah.
So more along the lines of your poem that you wrote, how many hours or minutes would you say that actually took you to write?
Well, for that one, I kind of just sat down and wrote it because I was repeating a line in my head. It kind of took me like 30, 25 minutes to write. The first line was the thing that came to my head and I couldn't get out of my head because of the anger I was in. Like, I'll burn you up in my velvet cauldron. Like, it's kind of just like an ode to my like spiritualism, really, and the way that I felt about like my dad, and that whole since we had gotten into an argument and it was just my way of saying that I wasn't going to be like him anymore and that I'll destroy him before he can destroy me type of thing. So I don't know. It didn't take me any time at all. It was pure emotion.
Just how you felt deep down inside?
Yeah.
I gotcha. What emotions did you intend to convey to the reader in this poem?
Self-empowerment, honestly. Just saying, like, stand up for yourself. Don't let people walk all over you. Don't let people try to compare you to themselves. You're not your parents. Like, they always say, oh, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. But yeah, it sure does. It falls pretty far. You can roll and someone can come and pick you up and take you home.
Once again, I just wanted to thank you for your time, and I appreciate you coming out this evening.
Thank you for having me. It was enjoyable.
Thank you.
I keep my eyes shut tight. I will cut him out of my inner existence and burn him up in my velvet cauldron. Will scream, for you never knew that side of me. I'm rotten in the best way. You have cut me down deep into my soul, made me change time and time again. It's always something new with you, though you have never changed yourself. You think this is parental guidance, but you're only changing me into yourself. I will never show you my eyes, for those are not for you to see my mind's desires. I need you to leave. Leave my future, fix my past, to keep me sane in the present. I try to care for my needs the best that I can, to show you that I can, but you tell me no, not that way. Why can't my way be the right way to change my fate?